Hello and welcome to another edition of Andy Shed Live. This is series 12, episode number 7 for Sunday the 19th of February 2023. Hello there everybody and welcome to the show. I hope you are all doing well today, and thanks for joining us just a couple of minutes late. Got to be a little bit late, otherwise people will not know it's me, will they? But yeah, welcome to the show. We are with you once again today, and a bit of a weird delay on things today, so let me know if things are out of sync, because yeah, YouTube's been having a few problems. Hello to everybody who is in the chat. Hello to Keith, Fat Hobbit, Miguel, Penfold, Christopher 2000, Spig, Wesley and Dominic. They're all here today. If you want to join us in the chat and you've not done so already, it is on the YouTube page for the live stream. If you are watching live, if you're watching after the event, of course, you can't join in the chat. But if you're watching on a smart TV or something where you can't see the chat replay, of course, it is all down there somewhere for you to have a look at it as well. Keith says he's only here for the moment. Alright. It says Fat says, I don't think Andy will come on live stream until 6:30. I'm off to get some pizza. I've just eaten the hottest pizza in my life. A pizza from Asda. Now I'll grant you it was labelled spicy. But my God, like ignite my breath. I feel like I'm a human flamethrower. Yeah. You get a sign, go in and get a cuppa. Look forward to the dial repair in most cases. Just a little cleaning oil. Just finished the German dial. Just dirt and not in use since the 60s. No, this is been worse than that, Penfold. I'll tell you now. It's going to be worse than that. I'll tell you now. Yeah. Penfold, hi everyone, tried to catch up, but last week episode 6 is missing. Yes, Penfold, glad you mentioned that. Episode 6 is now available if you want to go back after tonight and watch it. It was missing last week, as indeed this one will be after the live stream, because YouTube inserts so many damned adverts these days, it's getting well out of hand. So I now take the video down after the live stream, because the playback after the live stream has a ridiculous number of adverts in it. It's getting out of hand. So I now take it down until I can cull some of the adverts out of it, and there should not be any mid-roll adverts in this live stream. If you see a mid-roll ad, I want to know about it, because it's not been put there by me. I'm not getting paid for it, and if I find YouTube doing it without my knowledge, this will be on a different platform next week, not on YouTube, because I'm getting seriously hacked off with Google. So no, Penfold, it wasn't pulled by YouTube. It's on the Mumford Gate rant on the previous week. Yes, it was good, that, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah. I just read you through. I just go back through the chat what people have been saying in the last few minutes before we came on. Penfold says, I hope you're sharing that pizza, Fat Hobbit, unless it's tudor and banana again. Yeah, you could have had some of this one that I've just eaten. God, it was overly hot. Yeah. Christopher says, hi Andy, did you see my email I sent about the orange and blue 746 phones? Yes, Christopher, they're fake. Put it simply, GEC did not make orange phones, they did not make light blue phones. I think what you've got there is an orange phone and a ivory phone, and I think it looks light blue because of the lighting in the pictures. But they certainly did not make them. If you've got an orange phone, and certainly if you've got a light blue phone, they are modern cases, probably put on old phones. But they did not make them. The GEC like everybody else, only made them in the standard colours that we all know. So they are not as they should be. Dominic said, "Did you see the pre-grouping models I've collected, Andy?" I did, Dominic. I've seen the email. Yeah. Penfold says, "Thanks to the update on number 6." No problem, Penfold. Happy to oblige. Right, I've got to get rid of that because that'll be slowing things down. Right. Okay. So we should now be back, sort of how we should be. Somebody's sending me messages. Who's sending me messages? Oh dear. Alright, I've got to reply to this message. I will be 2 seconds. Just let me reply to this. Right, okie dokie, we'll get on, shall we? So, tonight, we have dials. Like this one, for instance. I'll move all the junk out of the way so you can see it. This one. Alright, so we have this dial. This is the one I took out of a 746 phone last week, basically, and it's not as marked, this dial. It's not as marked at all, in fact, because it's marked on the back there as a dial 51A. I don't know if you can see this. See that? 51A. Or actually, is it S1A? Yeah, it might be an S1A now, looking at it under that camera like you're looking at it. But anyway, the long and short of it is it's a dial 21. It's a bog standard dial 21. And it is absolutely and totally seized up. Right. So I'll just be with you just a second. Right, so basically what's happened to this is it's not running. So there's something wrong. There's something majorly wrong inside it. So what we're going to do is take it apart and have a look what's going on inside it. So first thing to do is take the screw out of the centre, take off the finger wheel, take off this. Now here's a clue, because things inside are quite rusty, the metal bits, so I think this has been somewhere damp or even wet at some point. The thing is, this centre cog is just not running at all. It's just totally not running. So, and I'm looking at the teeth on it, and I think some of the teeth may be damaged on it. So what we're going to attempt to do is to get at the spring that's hidden in here, because I think the spring's got something to do with it. So the way we do that is we have to take off all of this spring set, all of these contactors first, and we do that by undoing these two little screws in the base of here. Now don't worry, the spring set will not fall apart, because there's a single screw between these two that goes the other way that should hold them all together. So if I can just undo those like that, well, it'll all come out like that, you see. It's as simple as that. Right, so they are now off. That is now not spring loaded, because that is spring loaded by this thing on the spring set that we've took out, and those screws now will just drop out. I'll just slide them back in there for the time being. Right, and now we can see this is not turning at all. So, and this is the bit I really don't like doing, because it's got a big coily spring inside it. What we're going to do now is see about taking this off. And what I normally do when I'm dealing with a spring, I normally get a fairly hefty piece of rag. This is an old towel I use as a sort of polishing cloth and that, and just get it ready so that, you know, ready to catch the spring sort of thing, if necessary. You know, cover it up as much as you possibly can, just in case. Now take that screw out of there. Now the spring should all come out within this white plastic gear, and it should kind of stay inside it, but it's not going to. So this is where you put this over it, and then you can let it go ping and do whatever it wants, and it's safely retained under there. It's not going to get you in the eye or anything. So I think there, it's there. Right, so there's that, and the spring is still on the centre of that under there. Can you see it? But it's about to ping off. So what I'm going to do is just try to disconnect it and get some of the tension out of it, which I've done now. So there's that, and in here should be the spring, which we can now look at, and of course it's all gone really weird, and there it is. There's your spring. And it's got so much power in it, these. Really do not underestimate these, because they have got a phenomenal amount of power in them. Um, so here's your spring, and I thought it was going to be something with this spring. I thought this spring was going to be broken or something. It may have been twisted over or something like that, but what we can now do is sort of try and unwind it a bit and have a proper look at it, and it looks fairly okay. So we can reset the spring in the middle of this now. Now where you put these springs back in, it's just like you do a clock spring. You wind them from the outside to the inside, and the key is that this plastic wall holds it all in place. So you put it in and push it down, sort of thing, and it's not easy, it is fiddly, but once you've kind of got one layer in, it should then sort of hold itself in place more or less. So you can put that one in there, that into there. Now we've gone around the first. I mean, be careful, it's quite sharp. But now I've gone around the first one, you see, you wind it. So you're winding towards the centre. You see, you don't try and put a centre spindle on first. You wind the outside first. And if you're lucky, when you take this apart, the spring all stays in this white bit. But of course we didn't get lucky today, so it's just a bit of a fiddle to keep winding. I don't get any messages all day, and then they start when I'm trying to do this live stream every time. Right, what's happened there? It slipped out. I've got to get it back under control again. That's it. Whew, it's hard work, this. Really hard graft doing this with these springs. But you get the idea of how it's supposed to go, and it slipped again, but luckily I've caught it. You have to be so careful doing this. You easily take your eye out with it if it gets away from you. That last bit just fits in there like that, and it should all stay in there like that. And what I tend to do is just put it down and put something relatively heavy on it, like the corner of this telephone, for instance. There. So I put it on the desk under the corner of the telephone. Well, now we should be able to see why this is not rotating, because this is that plastic bit there. That green bit is this. It's the other side of this, and it seems to be stuck There we go. And it's stuck in the middle of there. You can push it out perhaps with a screwdriver. Like that. Whew. Now that is properly stuck in the middle of there. Now they are not normally stuck like that, so something is going on there. But that's why this dial wasn't rotating. See, this should now move relatively easily. I need to tap that out of the centre of there. I think the best way is, like I was doing before, get a screwdriver like that and just, there we go, it's out. So what I've done there is I've shoved it out with this screwdriver and it's out of that centre boss. And I don't know why that's seized up, because that's plastic running in metal. That wouldn't normally be a ridiculously tight fit. So I'm not entirely sure what's gone on there. You know, even a second time it won't come out. There. So, there it is. So what's going on with that hole? Is there rust in that hole? Don't think so particularly. How very strange. Why is it a tight fit then? Let's see if we can clean out the hole. Let me see if I can find a little round file or something. Draw down here. Is that one round? Yes. So here we are. Here's a round file. We can just run around that hole. Which should, as far as I'm aware, be round. And there is a bit of rust and muck coming out of it. There's a little bit of rust and garbage come out of there. Already that is way better. That is way looser already. I'm going to do it a little bit more. But yeah, so this metal bushing that plastic bit fits in, I think this has succumbed to a bit of rust as the dial's been sat, and that's what's made it tight. I think it's as simple as that. And I think we're going to smear a bit of oil onto that. Now, I've said this before, this is the equivalent of 3-in-1 oil. It's Wilko's own brand. I mean, when I bought this, it was about 99p for a bottle like this. It might be a bit more now. But some people say, oh, you have to use clock oil, you have to use clock oil. Well, if you want to be ripped off by an eBay seller and pay about 5 or 6 quid for a tiny bottle of clock oil, don't let me stop you. But it's really not necessary. All it needs to be is a fine grade mineral oil, which is what 3-in-1 oil is, and you'll be totally fine, honestly. Now, those teeth are not meshing well with that little gear on there, with this little metal gear on the top of here, and I thought it looked like these teeth were worn down, and indeed they are. And I'm still having trouble turning this. Because those teeth are not meshing well with that wheel. And it's because they're worn down. So I think this piece is scrap. Because if you look very closely at the teeth on it, look at the ones at the bottom as you're looking at that now. Can you see there's like a flat one on them? So some of those teeth look all worn down. If you can see that. So we need a dial with better teeth. So luckily I've got a bag of dial bits. Now this is a bag basically of old dial bits that I've got here, so I can have a little look in this bag. And I can find one of these dials. I'm trying to find one without a spring in it. Because if I can find one without a spring, there's one. There's one. And that bit is already loose on that. Hang on, wrong camera. There we go. That bit's already loose. I can just lift that out of there, you see, and that will hopefully slot straight into there and engage nicely with that. But when you get to there for some reason, oh, it won't turn any further because it's come up against this little thing here. So if I undo that, that's tight. Again, I think it's something that may have rusted up, and you can't get a screwdriver straight onto it. There is a little cutout here in the ground to help you, but might have to try and work without undoing that, because it doesn't look like it's going to come out, and I haven't got a spanner. It's small enough to get on that. My bigger screwdriver, see if that'll. Nope. Right, so to get at that screw, I need to take these screws out and get this black surround off. And I think there might be another one that I have to take out that's under the finger stop, but we'll see. Or is it actually the finger stop screws themselves that are the problem? Right, yeah, it's the finger stop screws themselves, I think. Right, there's the finger stop off. Now that will lift off there, and now I can get much better access to this. Now I can now get a bigger screwdriver on there and loosen it. So there we go, that's that. So now got to try and remember which way around this goes, and remember this little slot here for the screwdriver to go down is in line with that screw, so it goes back together like that. So these should just screw down again. If we've got it in the right place, that is. Which we might not have quite. That one's gone in. That one's going now. That's it. So they've got in, that screw there is hanging out now, so I'll just wind it in a couple of turns. The slot doesn't actually help you much. But the idea's there, so that, because that screw, the idea of it is to eventually butt up against this little peg on the back of here. So if I put that in now, because I've wound that screw out, I've wound it back in just that little bit too far. That's it now. The peg passes and you can wind that all the way around, and it's relatively straightforward. Now what it won't do at the minute is it won't run back, and I think it won't run back because there's something wrong with the governor. And if you remember last week, a little piece of plastic fell out, and I think it was part of this governor arrangement here. So what we need to do is take the governor out and have a look at it. So we can now undo this peg. Yeah. Take it out, and it's got a little washer as well associated with it. There. Then there's a screw in here, there, my finger, that's also got to come out. Too small for that screwdriver. Fix it. Okay, it's got a washer on it. I'm going to take my blue centre cog out for a while, and now I can just lift out this, and you can see what's happened here. I think now there's, on this end of here, there's the remains of a little plastic screw. Can you see that? Just the remains of one. And what fell out the other day is the head of that little plastic screw. So this governor is adjusted by that little plastic screw, and the governor is quite rusty. Yeah? So what I think we may do is steal this governor out of this other dial, this one. But this one, you see, doesn't have that same screw thing at this end, because this is one of the cheapened dials. So what I now need to do, I now need to find the remnants of a dial 21 with that screw for the governor mounting. So we'll keep the original cap there for the governor, but what we will do is we will try and lift out this governor out of here like this, because this one is less rusty than this one. Okay, and they are effectively the same, so we'll use this slightly less rusty one. But now I need to find this little plastic bearing screw to go on this end of it, so it'll run right in there like that. and this little plastic bearing on the other end. So back to my bag of bits. That dial 21 is missing the... That one is missing the thing the same. Missing the same part. That one's got one, but I don't really want to mess with that one because that's quite a good, complete dial. Missing one. That one's got one. In fact, that one's got a metal one. So it might be better to use that one. Got any more? And that one's got a metal one, and that dial is not so complete. So we'll steal this metal one out of here, this screw in the end of here. Hang on, you can't see that. This screw in the end of here is what we want. So I'm going to need a fairly big screwdriver, but they need a very thin screwdriver as well. So, can we turn it? Yes, we can. So there's the bit we need. Right. So I can put all these others away again. Look at that. So the way I'm going to propose to do it is to put this in first. So there's a little washer that just fell off the end of it. I'm going to stick that little washer back on and try to put that in that hole there. You see that? So I'm not sure it all the way over now, but that's in there. And then this governor, you put that end in there, like so. You put the other end in that end of that metal bearing that you've just shoved in there, and hopefully this sort of lines back up with those two holes there. And one of those holes has your pin that eventually holds the finger plate on. Now these are very rusty actually, so I think what I'm going to do I think I'm going to swap that out again with this one from this donor dial. Because this one is in way better condition, and that's this. The little washer has stayed on the bottom of that, so I'm just going to stick that straight in that hole there. And hopefully it will go in. Not going in easily though. Is it the same? It's looking pretty similar. Maybe it just needs a little bit of encouragement. That does not seem to want to go in there. Right. Let's take this out a minute and have a dry run. No, doesn't want to go in. Have they used a different thread? Perhaps so, because that one goes in easily. Right, we'll have to put the rusty one back in then. Now, of course, normally you'd clean all this up before you put it back in, but because I'm aware of time and speed and all those things, because we're live, you know, and you can easily take your pegs out again at a later date anyway. So for now, I'm just going to stick this back in. So and then we'll worry about de-rusting it, as I say, at a later date. Yeah, and that one screws in much easier than the other one did. So perhaps they changed the threads. Perhaps they went from imperial to metric, although I can't imagine them doing that. Perhaps they did. Right, here's the other little screw that has to go back in. So where it's handy if your screwdrivers are just a little bit magnetic perhaps. And that now turns on there, and we should now be able to do this up, and it should still turn freely like that. And you see that? Turning nice and freely in there. So now when we put our centre in, it should be able to turn that relatively easily. still not happy about this though. That is still tight in that hole. Put it the other way around for a minute. See, that should rotate easily in that hole. It should not be at all tight, and it is. So I think that'll stand a bit more filing and cleaning and whatever. Right, while I'm doing this, what is everybody up to in the chat? Let's have a little look. Well, it says you can remove the spring pretension before removing it. Yeah, you probably can, Wesley. Yeah, by taking that little screw out, I think that would do that. Fat Hobbit says, I bet those Saudi phones are real collector's items. Seem to be a lot of those. A lot of Saudi phones find their way over here. Fat Hobbit says, any updates on your radio station, Andy? Yes, Fat Hobbit. It has started doing some test transmissions, but the thing we are really short of now is decent quality programming, pre-recorded, and people to actually do shows. So yeah, we're short of both of those things now, because everybody seems to want to do a specialist music program, and 99% of what I want on the air doesn't want to be a specialist music program. You know, it just wants to be a run-of-the-mill radio program, just playing a basic mix of music perhaps, and I quite like a good percentage of talk radio that doesn't involve music or involves very little music. I would like some talk radio on. I would like things like phone-ins on, discussion shows and stuff like that. So yeah, I want it to be, as the tagline for the station says, more than just music. But that is proving to be quite difficult. So if anybody wants to do a show or anything, particularly if you're in the area and you can get to the studio at Plesley Vale, because I would much prefer the shows to be done in the studio, really. I will take shows from outside, but I'll much prefer them to be done in the studio so I can sort of, we can keep tabs on the sound quality and stuff like that. So if you're anywhere near Plesley, let us know. Keith says, wow, does Andy have a radio station as well? Is there nothing this man can't do? No, Keith. We can do most things, and what we can't do, we fake. Yeah. But yes, it's only an online station at the minute, Keith. And it's taken a year to set up so far. Dominic says, I tried to go to Christ yesterday, but the museum is closed till mid-March. Still, it was a nice day for a walk. Yeah, I can believe that. I think they may be open on... Oh, yeah, it was Saturday yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah, I thought they might be open on a Saturday in February. Particularly as it's school half-term in some places. So yeah, I would have thought they'd have been open. Maybe they're taking the opportunity to do some maintenance. Penfold says, I will start practicing my range of swear words if I did that with the spring. I'm learning again today. Like threading a needle without glasses, that's fine. Yeah. Yeah, we got the spring in, and I've now trapped it under a 706 phone that's sat on the desk here, so it can't go anywhere. Penfold says, just need Odin jumping up now to knock the spring. No, Odin's not here. Odin's not visiting tonight. Yeah, I shall be going to see Odin at his house tomorrow. He's such a character. Yeah, it says plastic can expand at times, a little glass paper perhaps to reduce the stem. Yes, perhaps that is the case. Could well be. The other thing is, I don't think this plastic will, I don't think this is the sort of plastic that will sand easily. I think it's designed to be hard wearing, like a nylon-y sort of stuff. And I think your sandpaper would just kind of skate over the surface pretty much. I mean, you would be able to do it to a certain degree, but I'm hoping when I've got the sort of rough surface out the inside of this, I'm hoping it'll be enough to let it spin. I mean, you can see how rusty these are, and it's the same on the inside of here. So this phone has been in a damp atmosphere, or maybe even in some water at some point. I mean, who knows? People have had them sat in garden sheds and things for years and stuff. I mean, you just never know where they've been, do you? Are we getting anywhere now with that? That does seem to be a pretty good fit now. I think I'm going to oil everything now, while it's in a relatively large number of bits. And the way to do this, to get a little bit of oil, I have found, is to get your bit of oil on something. So we take a bit of oil, and in my case I'm going to just put it on the lid of this jar here. But just a spot of oil on the lid of the jar, and then pick it up with something, the end of a matchstick or the end of a very small screwdriver like this, scoop a bit up and just stick it where you want it. This was taught to me by an old railway modelling friend of mine, who said never put the oil straight on. He said always pick it up on a matchstick or something, and then you only get the tiniest amount on, which is what you need when you're doing railway modelling. So you don't need much. What I'm going to do is get my finger in it and rub some onto this shaft that we're going to put back in. There's a big argument as to whether you should oil teeth on cogs and that. Some people say yes, you should oil them. particularly if they're going into a worm gear, because the worm gear slides between them. Some people say no, don't oil them, because if you oil them, the oil attracts dust and it grinds the teeth down. So I'll let you argue amongst yourselves as to whether you should oil the teeth on cogs and that, but on plastic ones in particular I don't think it's necessary. Right, that seems to be running okay now, and you can see that is now, when you go that way, turning this that way, you should be able to stop it, and it should just, because the clutch, it's just turning that little metal pinion on the top of that clutch mechanism there, not turning the whole clutch mechanism. But when you do it the other way, it turns the whole clutch mechanism, which in turn turns the governor. Now I think this governor is going to run a bit slow, but I just think that because of you know, sort of what I know from experience, but we'll see when we put it together. Right, now to get the spring back out from under the telephone, where hopefully it's still behaving itself. Now, what we've got to do here, you see the end of the spring, I don't know if you can see this, the end of it isn't tight to the coil, the end of it is sort of about 3 or 4 millimeters away. Can you see the end of that spring there? And what we've got to do is put this back together so the end of that spring, that flat bit on the end of the spring, goes in that slot there, that metal slot. Can you see that metal slot? So that's got to fit in there. And of course what invariably happens is you miss it. Now it may be easier to do this before you put the blue bit in the middle. So I'm going to take that out a minute and then just engage that flat bit of that spring into that metal slot there. This is a really tricky manoeuvre. To achieve, but there you go, I've got it. So it's now, have I got it? No, I've bloody not got it. Now I've got it. Right, now I've got it. Now in that slot. So now turn it over again. And now we look down this hole, and that white thing there you probably can't see now, but this white thing I'm holding with my fingers for dear life, the hole in the middle of that has got a flat on it. Now as you're looking at it there, I think the flat is to the bottom. Now the end of this has also got a flat on it. So what you've got to do is poke this through so the end comes through that hole, and obviously only the flat goes through, sort of thing. You know the flat has to be in the right place for it to engage. And it's a matter of doing it with by feel, really, because you certainly can't blooming see it. But it's just dawned on me that I've changed this so it doesn't go all the way through either, it only goes sort of part of the way through. Right, now we have a little screw somewhere. Where have I put the little screw? It's here. I'm going to screw this partially together just to try and hold it for a minute. Is that spring still in that slot? Alright, so it gets, that's why you need 10 hands, but every hand gets in the way, so actually you feel you don't want any hands. There's some old BT engineer somewhere laughing at me now, thinking, oh, there's an easy way of doing that. What an idiot, there's such an easy way of doing that. I think I may there, got it. It just turned it around and it clicked in all the way, so now I can do that up. Okay, so we've now got all this together now, so it should now run back against the spring. So if I turn this down a bit, it should run back. Okay. Now, what we now have to do is put tension on the spring, get that little peg on the back of this blue thing, past that screw there, just with enough tension on that it wants to go back to the screw. So we look for where the peg is now. and it's there. I think it's past the little screw now. Peg is sort of here now, and the screw is here. So I'm now going to wind that screw in. And I'll say it's really not a great design, this, but I'm now wind that screw in there. So you see that dial now runs back to the screw. Yeah? So when we put the finger wheel back on, which I'm just now going to do temporarily, like so, put the screw in it. So there's enough tension on that spring now that that peg on the back of that blue cog is pressed up against that screw, you see, but I can still turn the dial as far as I need to turn it, and it comes back 1001, and it's a tad slow perhaps, but it's not bad. And it's kind of doing what it should do. So now I'll take this off again a minute. Because we've got other things now to put back together, so I've got to put this plate back on, and of course that could do with a wash, couldn't it, before we put that back on. So I'm just going to go and give that a rinse in a bit of soapy water. But before I do so, I will just catch up with what folks are saying in the chat. Where it says, is the clutch not seized causing the resistance? No, it's not the clutch where the clutch is okay. The clutches often do seize up though. It says, much prefer good old metal dials rather than the crappy plastic ones. Yeah, this is a weird one. Some dial 21s were sort of half and half. Originally they were all metal dial 21s, but they gradually started using more plastic bits in them. Wesley says, I did a very similar repair last week, repairing an earlier dial with bits from one of those horrendous all plastic dials. Yeah, the only good thing about the all plastic dials is the clutches in those late all plastic ones do not seem to seize up like the early ones do. So I've used a lot of these all plastic dials, these ones, to take the clutches out and repair dial 21s. Brother says, those plastic screws break very easily. Avoid trying to adjust them as they will likely just break. Yeah, as we found last week, the one that came out of this phone was broken. Keith says, the battery on my phone is about to die. We'll try signing again when I've found a charger. Cheers, Keith. Hopefully you get some electric back into your battery soon. Christopher says, I did my dial 12 spring on my Ericsson phone because the dial didn't turn. Dominic says, got to head off now, but thanks all, have a great week. Cheers, Dominic. We will see you soon. Right, what I am now going to do then is I am going to go and give this a wash. I will be back in just a moment. On my way back, I'm just drying it off. There we go. That looks a bit more presentable, doesn't it? Yeah? Oh, yes. Right. So, now then. Oh, I've got to put the finger stop back on there. Those two very long screws that sort of go through everything. There we go. Right, so that's that. Goes back on those two rusty pegs. The equally rusty little springy thing goes back on there, like that. Now we can refit the finger wheel. Like so. Sorry, I'm doing it all that shot, aren't I? I've got a habit of working right on the edge of the bench. So now, hopefully, this will work. Now, it is making a bit of a clicky noise, but maybe that is just while it beds in. Because remember, I have changed some things over, swapped some bits over that are probably slightly worn and not worn with the part they're now running against. So we might just have to give it a bit of time and see if it beds in anyway and the oil gets penetrating into all the places it needs to penetrate into. What has happened here on the back is this has fallen off. Right, so that put that little blue thing back on there now, and now we've got to put this stack back on. Right, the screws have just dropped out again, at least one of them has, but all you do is you just put it back on there, and you have to be kind of careful to get that over that blue thing there. And then just try and get one of the screws in. And I'm lucky that one's gone straight in. There's the one that's just fallen out. There it is. That one can go back in there. And the key is when you're putting this back on, just make sure you don't bend anything really. And your dial should now have stopped with this thing here pushing on that. So this little peg on here should be pushing on the V in that arm there. then it should just be enough to open that contact there and open that contact there. And I think it's just about doing it. Now, on earlier versions of a dial 21, there was a separate little metal piece that went on the back of here that you could adjust around to get that in exactly the right place. But I think it's doing it. I think it's good enough, that. So, yeah. And does it pulse, which is these contacts here? Let's have a look. Wind it around and see if it pulses. No, it doesn't, because that's not down where it should be. Right. Now it does. Right, how do you... Is there a way of fastening that on there then? How do you stop that blue thing riding off there? How do you stop that riding up and off of there? I don't know how you do that, because that is going to want to ride up like that, isn't it? And then it'll not work. So how do you stop that doing that? Let's have a look at another dial. See if I've got a similar one where I might get an idea of how it does it. Right, here's one. It's not blue on this one, but it's there, and it can't ride up. Somehow it can't come off because something somewhere along the line holds it on. And does it just press on further than I've got it pressed? Perhaps it does. Perhaps it should just press on more. But then I need to put something behind that to press against. I'm not sure about this. Oh, that's it. It just did it go click. Did you hear it click? There we go. Yeah. And now that's not falling off even if I do it upside down. Brilliant. So, there we have it. That is a dial 21 pretty much restored. I'm just going to tweak that a little bit. I'm definitely sure that opens. Yeah, that's it now. That's way better. Yeah, that's it, just tweak the contacts a bit. And there we go. It's basically working. So that's how you do it. That is how you fix a completely finished up dial 21 from an old, I think it was from a 746, this one. So that is how you do it anyway. So that is about it, I think, probably for tonight. Let's just see what everybody's saying in the chat and that. Oh, everybody's gone a bit quiet. Oh, hang on, has the chat frozen? No, I don't think it has. I think it's still going. Right, yeah, so I'm just checking through the chat just before we go. Yeah, I think everybody's been engrossed in that there tonight, including me. So yeah, I've got a load of dial bits now that I've disassembled, but there's the little plasticky bit there. There's the little offending plasticky bit off the end of there. So that's the one that is a bit on the spiral on the end there. You can feel the rust on it, but I'll not throw that away. I will clean that up because that will be a useful bit when we've got the rust off it again. So we'll save all those bits. But this dial we can now put the back cover back on it for now, and we'll also stick the opal back in, and then next week we'll put that back into the telephone. Okay, that is about as far as we go, I think, for this week. Thanks very much to everybody for watching and bearing with me while we've been doing that. If you've got any questions or anything that you want to ask after the event, either leave a comment on the video, or remember you can get in touch with us via our website, andyshed.corepress.net. And if you've enjoyed what you've seen here, remember we do also have a Patreon site that you can join up to. It's patreon.com/AndysShed. That's patreon.com/AndysShed. And we have a forum as well, gpotelephones.proboards.com is the address for the forum if you want to talk telephones while we're off air during the week. But we'll not be off air for long, because coming around about same time, same place next week, 6:30 on a Sunday evening, UK time, we will be back with another episode of Andy's Shed Live. But from me for now, until next week, have a fantastic week ahead, everybody, and I will see you soon. Bye for now.